A warm welcome to everyone for coming along to celebrate the life of Mike Vash. So, I'd like to thank the motorcycle community for turning out. A lot of lifetime friends. So we'll get this show on the road, Mike. We took you here there this morning, so we're going to do this beautiful little ceremony for you today because you deserve it. So Mike Vash, born 30th of August 1943. Now Mike reckons he was conceived on the bridge of the USS Bellatrix. So, these are the facts you find out later on in life. Anyway, Mike's family facts. Full name, Michael Ivashevic John Vash. 1951, his mum married on and Mike became a Brown. Now the Browns were located up the Regutiki area, so he sort of became a bit of a country boy back in those days. Took on primary school at Rewa School and then Hunterville. And then came Scots College, 1957. And apparently, this is so typical, Mike showed up on the first day of term with a partly coloured red shirt, pants and socks. That wasn't apparently the right type of attire. But anyway, he fitted in and became a boarder there. So with his stay with all the boarders, that's where he found a lot of his Scots College friends. Now Mike found it hard to work with people, but he gathered but he gathered a team together and conned the bursar to buy paint and got the crew of the young fellas who were keen and eager to listen to Michael, who was probably pretty good at wrangling them up to do that, to paint the hallways in the school. And this is the type of thing, 3 levels, and the guys were doing it early morning and in the afternoon as well as fitting in school. So he probably had some, what's going on type people then. Mike, in his early days, loved hockey with a passion, so that's field hockey, and was a standout student from the onset. In 1960s, Mike finished school, and around about 61ish, he got back to the Browns farm and did some farm work at the Pakikahura farm. Also, back to Wellington later on. He worked in the railways as a drafting officer, so that's where it sort of led into a lot of other aspects of things. This would have been where he got his trade drafting tickets. Then Victoria University was the next step for him. And not sure what he took there, but cricket was his choice of sport, with him going on to play for also the Wellington cricket team. Then teaching maths at Wellington Polytechnic for about a year or so apparently, so he would have got his mathematical things out of him and onto others. Later in the 60s, he went on to becoming a milk vendor with the K Bedford truck. Now, you guys remember that shiny beauty? Well, yeah. It lived outside here at Tanera Crescent for a number of years too, and it's a little retirement plan. So, but he also had an international truck as his everyday vehicle, so a few of you will remember that, and he was driving around, and then apparently he got a Valiant, a 68 Valiant, and we're pretty sure with the amount of parts that ended up being around his house that this was the thing that led him into motorcycles. So, yeah. And then Victoria University, 1969, the Wellington Cricket Club, and his favourite hockey, was still involved with that. And he got a lot of friends from that. And if anyone can think of anything else around that era, please get up and tell us when it is over my time. Anyway, many a yelling session I bet on the streets of Wellington, cursing and swearing as Mike started his milk deliveries in the central Wellington area, the terrace and places like that. Now, I remember my sister having a thing because the old man was a milk vendor as well. So, one of the true stories that one day, back then, the milk department sort of didn't buy back the milk, which I think he used to be able to do back in those days. He took it to a great level and just like dumped the bloody milk onto the car park. So he just would have been, bugger this, dump it. Deal with it yourselves then. What the... Victoria Motorcycle Club in the 1970s. He's one of those founding guys that sort of set it up. Is that right, guys? Anyone say anything? Feel free to speak, yell, scream. Yeah. Vash was there on his bike, you know. He was martial, he was on it, he was there, enthusiastic as ever. Just being Michael. He loved helping out in every aspect of the field. Mike became very addicted to two-stroke motorcycles. We're talking very addicted to two-stroke motorcycles. To the point of treating them like family members or pets. And speaking to them in the third person, you know. And all that kind of thing. You remember that. So, catching many people off guard when he thought he'd come to appreciate their vehicle, and he would talk to it like they weren't even there. So, asking questions.
And strike the petrol tank.
That's right. Oh, you're a pretty thing. Does she really? All that. Yes. So, you know, no doubt catching many people off, and, you know, like, does she like to wheelie? Up on the back wheel? She's a nice putt, isn't she? The normal person on a bike just wouldn't have handled that at all, you know, so. Now, bike personalises motorcycles. They had names like Zippy Zap, the RD400, Sweetie Pie, Sprite, the RDLC, and Miss Silky Smooth, the RZ500. You know, Mike really loves his bikes, man, and that's a top thing. When you feel like that about your vehicle, that's cool as. The Brooklyn Headbangers formed in the later part of the 80s. I was there with one of the founding members, and that we were just, Mike loved it, the music was big, he was into bikes, the beer, the music. It was a great obsession, I'd say. It was around about that era in the later 80s he started to discover his family roots. So his trips to the United States began, and the search for his real family, because remember, he didn't sort of know sort of aspects of things, and I know a lot of you there will be talking about all these kinds of aspects. But so he began to look for his family, and also took in a lot of heavy metal concerts, which had us in disbelief, because he was seeing some of the most up-to-date, hard, rocking bands and loving it. You know, like in one circumstance, we were up at Tanera Crescent there, he turned up with multiple shirts on, we were having a few beers and that, and we're talking multiple shirts. So he would enter the room with one shirt on, he would exit, come on with another one, and another one, and another one. I mean, we were talking like 10 shirts, so it was like definitely Mike Vash humour with the metal scene. So, also in the 80s, he was doing the air conditioning services, and that was sort of like with the Fletcher's group and with Mekon. So doing that ventilation, commissioning and stuff like that, and that took him through to the 90s. And that's where he sort of formulated his self-company, Headbanger Services. So, you know, you can get a read off that. Mike, more than likely, made his mark with a lot of people in the offices with his losing control and temper. So, you know, many an office person was caught off guard. With that jersey or that swan dry up a ladder cursing and swearing, what would you think? You know, so good stuff. He got it fixed though, because he was one of those kind of things. So actually, a true fact again, a full throttle day on the RD, I think it was a Sunday night or something like that. He proceeded to come up Tanera Crescent here, reckons the throttle jammed, I reckon he just popped a wheelie and lost the shit out of it. Scooted through, made through the fence here and landed on the tier where we were going to be walking him out this afternoon. So, total Mike Vash accident. Broken, turns up at the house, his arms like this, and all he was worried about is getting the bike home. You know, so that before we get to the ambulance there, that's what had to be done. So, and in the event of that, he ended up having his arm pinned, you know, like, just unbelievable thing. And then still resulting in him getting there in his house, rebuilding a couple of the bikes. And then within that period of that 12 months when that healing had just settled down, this is a true fact. So he went over to Masterton with a good friend of ours, and he had to ride the, Mike was on the RZ, Miss Silky Smooth, and our friend was on the RD400. Mike went over, and he clocked his bike at the Masterton. I think it was like some straight, I don't think it was a drag strip or anything like that, it was some road or something like that, at 150 miles an hour. So which is pretty good speed. You can just imagine him hanging on, helping for leather. But, and only to be beaten by the Mother's MC from Palmerston North by 2 miles per hour. So that was always like, fuck, 4 strip. They had some Ducati thing stripped down like this, But, that's one of those things Mike could brag about. So in the 90s, he travelled more across the world, and again, places like Europe, and he caught up with some people like that. And this is where he took on the Isle of Man as well, and went to that racing mecca, where we've actually, again, we've lost a lot of good Kiwis, but it's a great place to go to. And Mike loved that, and brought back a lot of paraphernalia, and sort of handed out amongst the friends and stuff, and shared those times. He also started doing the dyno tuning with all the motorcycles and getting right into that, and he loved that, getting those things going and peeling out, because remember those gears in his head, mathematical equations, working out, trying to get the max of that vehicle was one of those things he really lived for, which is, that's a cool thing. So, and then apparently he did a stint, this is one of the, those, as one of our friends says, the enigma about Mike Vash, is that, I had a friend talk to him as we've been doing the last few days, and I hope you all have as well, and sharing those stories, but he did a stint of checking electrical wiring on lighthouses around New Zealand. I mean, all of them, the whole lot, over a 2-year period, so that would have been one of those jobs that would say, oh yeah, I'll give that a go, cruise down on his bike. Some of those places would have been habitated by, lighthouse keepers and stuff, and he would have turned up, drunk their beer or their whiskey, told them many a good story, no doubt. So just totally the cool thing to do, but So 2000s, more time to travel. He spent a lot more time at the Tram Museum on his Wednesdays and on his Sundays without fail. And the Tram Museum, which I skipped there back in the early days, he actually started back in about 1965 participating in rebuilding the old trams that we used to have, and that was out the Kapiti Coast there. And one of those people that really got in there, swore, swung spanners, did whatever, listened, took orders, gave orders, all that kind of thing. But these people are just amazing that do those kind of things. So he was preserving that kind of history of the trams here. So it was always a really good thing. So he had a real routine about his lifestyle from about 2000 on. He was sort of slowing down in life, but still revving it up. And so Wednesdays and Sundays were his days without fail of going to the museum. And then he took on the Brooklyn Library a lot of the times and Saturdays and stuff like that. Getting down to the Island Bay butchers and scoring his 20k slab of rump steak, which was a staple diet for that guy. I remember we were talking, we saw him at the Southern Cross a couple of weeks ago, and he was going on about, I've been eating steak for 30, 40 years, every morning, with cauliflower. So, you know that. So, relaxing more in his days and doing those kind of things. And then also the crossword was a very good thing for that amazing mind of his that just had to spin the gears and sort that out. He was very good at that. So that became more of his winding down era began. And then 2010, onto the same kind of stuff, touring the world, really getting to blend with his roots of his family, which is quite a good thing to do, I mean, we should all do that, but, sometimes we leave it into those golden years, but that's great. And he got to meet all those right key people in his life, which was really, really good. And he was really happy about it. And turned up at a friend of ours' house with his family tree book, and it was just filled out. The gaps were becoming closer and closer, sewing up together. So pretty much that covers it right up until, of recent days. So, what I'd like to say in a kind of a summary here at the moment is Mike was one of those one-off kind of guys we met in our lifetime. He would have people in certain boxes, right? This is through a good friend of ours, and we came to this conclusion. And he'd have the tramway people, Brooklyn headbangers, people from the village, other people from the sporting thing, people that he knew in Wellington City, friends he'd catch up around the country, but none of us knew anything about any others type of thing. So he wouldn't, as much as he knew you and gave you all of what he gave you, he wouldn't lead on too much about anything else. There's so Mike Vash, right through and through. So one of his favourite quotes I must quote, as we know, up on the hind wheel, does she do big wheelies? Yeah! 4 strokes. But, a lot of us had them, but he was still loved motorcycles, Headbangers rule. Sup Sunday, Lou Mama. What the fuck was that? No idea. But it was one of those quotes he'd come up with, That brilliant mind would just let stuff out. No filter. Some people liked it, a lot of people didn't. Tough shit. That goes with the attire, with the lifestyle. Tough shit. You can learn a lot from that, You just go through your life and you live it. He lived it right till the end. Solid as. Get that, will you? Alright, sorry, do we need to hold on? Oh, it's the camera guy. Edit that out, will you? Alright, so, one of those, the last meant to be used to be, is he was an honest to goodness, 2-stroke wheeling good bastard. Right? We needed people on this. He's one of those unique souls. It's so good to see everybody here today celebrating this life. Because he fucking lived it. Alright? So I'm going to hand over the mic in a minute. I think I'm just going to swing a song. I'm getting a little bit teary-eyed there. So I'm going to introduce you to Peter Kiddo, which is a lifetime friend of his from many, many a decade. And remember, Mike lived many, many a decade. So what I'm going to do here in a quick second as I'm talking, like I do, I'll just plug into the phones with these modern devices. He'd be cursing. We bought a CD player here. It's got fucking electrical wire and that. Everything was... So I just decided to go with the phone. And we're just going to play a song on memory for him. So I'll go to my libraries. Give me a second here, slight technical hitch. No, okay, alright, get out of there. Actually, what I'll do is I will hand over to you, Peter, because after that flurry of losing your notes, there's nothing worse than being told, hang on a minute, I'm just going to put the song on. Alright? So, if you get up and grab the mic, so I'm going to introduce a few different people today. So you've got to been awake for days, mate. So, if you want to say something after we've got through these main core people, I'd really like you to do it, It's my phone this time. Because it's important to say these things about these people in our lives. So don't just hold it in. Feel free to say something. It can be just a couple of words. But come up and grab the mic. Grab it like this. Put it in front of you. Speak clearly. Here we go. I'd like to introduce Peter Kiddo.
Thank you very much, Mark. And talk about Mike. My name, incidentally, is Peter Kiddo, and I live in Waipawa, Hawke's Bay. And I've known Mike for 62 years. Not one of those years have we not been in contact with Mike. And it's my privilege to probably bore you with a couple of anecdotes of the Mike that I have known all of these years. Firstly, however, I would like to thank a few people. These people have helped me to get to grips with the tragedy that occurred last week. First of all, Henry Britton, who phoned us to tell us that Mike had had an accident but didn't know the severity of it. Thanks very much, Henry. Incidentally, these people had a tremendous difficulty trying to find our contacts. That was the boxes that Mike kept everybody in. Henry Britton from the much-loved Michael's Tramways Museum at Paikokariki. The next phone call we got was from Melissa Woolley and Tessa Warwick for the phone calls that they gave us. Mel and her associates at the ICU, who also phoned us on Friday morning and advised us of the severity of Mike's condition. Their compassion and help to Faye and I and everybody that was there was absolutely exemplary. Thank you. Also, Ian from the New Zealand Police for his continuing support. And last but not least, Russell and Sue Brown, Mark Woolley and Colin McClellan for organising this, Mike's last gig, under extremely difficult conditions. But thank you to you all. Now we'll get on to a bit of Mike. Sorry for being a wee bit emotional or whatever, because Mike's been gone for a week today and I haven't felt this way, but we'll do our best. Mike Brown, as I was introduced to him in February 1957 when he arrived at Scots College, was wearing an odd-coloured shirt, as Mark alluded to, so sorry for repeating that. But the effect of that was how Mike's life was to be always. His attitude to life was to buck the system. Mike enjoyed making music around the piano and was particularly keen on revamping church hymns and that side of thing. Music was excuse me, I'll take my glasses off. Music was a particular favourite of Mike's, and was common theme through our respective lives. He enjoyed participating in school productions of Gilbert and Sullivan, both as a stagehand and a performer. He also enjoyed listening to heavy classical music, starting with Grieg and then on to Wagner, and heavy metal and Metallica were obvious progressions from here. Not my stuff at all. Mike has had an ongoing relationship with Scots College, belonging and helping in the archives department, and I know he will be extremely missed by the staff there. You can imagine Mike rocking up to Scots College in just anything at all, hard hat, probably his old headbanger jersey, and people will be looking at Mike that didn't know Mike, but I do know the staff there really appreciated what he did, and one lady there actually told me a few years ago that she loved him, so there you go. Upon leaving school, he would arrive at our place in Hawke's Bay in his mother's Vauxhall Velox. As I was to learn later, he did this with a number of our classmates from school days and was able to keep me informed as to what they were all doing. Over the early years, till around 1984, he would arrive in various vehicles, as Mark's alluded to, starting with an International Ute, then a K-model Bedford, which was his milk delivery truck, and a Valiant VE, and then onto his trademark two-stroke motorcycles. One particular visit, New Year 1969, it's a long time ago. We all went to a neighbour's home to see the New Year in, and we'd all nicknamed Mike Ernie, because he had the milk run, of course, after the song about poor old Ernie and his yogurts. Anyway, at this point in time, Mike was sporting a beard. The ladies at the gathering were all getting quite merry, as you do on New Year's Eve, and Mike was even further along the inebriations path, so far so that he went to sleep. The ladies said they were going to cut off Mike's beard and were looking for some scissors. I was horrified, as I knew how Mike would go off his bloody tree when he awoke. Meanwhile, the ladies could only find pinking shears, but they carried on regardless. Mike did go off his tree and left for home the next morning. He was back again the next summer, staying for the holidays and enjoying working on our mobile contract sheep dipping units and getting to know many, many farmers in Central Hawke's Bay. Through the 1970s, Mike was with us for his summer holidays every year, finding small projects to do and swearing and cursing as he was doing them. It was pretty difficult unless you were on a tractor, and Mike was on a tractor, to work with Mike, as that's been alluded to too. But we were probably endeared to him. I don't know how my wife put up with him all those years, but anyway, she did, and thanks very much for that. One time when our eldest son was about 3, Mike arrived at the door with his leathers and helmet on. Chris, the son who's here today, rushed to his mother shouting, "A spaceman, a spaceman." Knowing how Mike was different from us all, it was a very appropriate description of him from the mouth of a babe. As a family, Mike has attended all of our celebratory milestones, including when Faye and I were married in 1967. Ending just 6 days before his death, he attended 6 days before his death by attending a dinner for the above-mentioned Chris, our son, for his 49th birthday. Mike was staying with us at the time. It was a sad time for us, having come up to attend my brother's funeral. We're very grateful for having spent the last days but for with Mike, and upon hearing of his accident on Friday the 6th, have been in severe shock. Since 1984, and Mike was saying this to Faye just the other day when he was at home, he stayed at our home each year for between 6 and 8 weeks. So we consider him to be, and have been, a brother, a brother-in-law, and an uncle. And are also, where did I get to? This is typical Michael. I lost all my notes before. He's having the last laugh. I was tearing around here getting most upset, and they were in my bloody pocket. So anyway, and now I can't work out how I did it. Just bear with me for a second. I'm almost finished.
I think you're perfect.
And also, he's been a very helpful general farm worker, and he loved working on the farm, and he certainly could work. That was an attribute of Mike's. It didn't matter how long the job took, he was still doing it, but he was doing it his way. The one thing he liked doing was haymaking, and we had a little Fergie tractor with a rake on it, but he loved to try and get the bloody thing to do wheelies. That was the nearest thing to a 2-stroke Yamaha that we had on place. The other thing he enjoyed was cutting firewood. Woe betide if you ask Mike to do any of the above jobs your way. All sorts of expletives, etc., etc. Carry on, Mike. In 2011, he went to sleep on his bike at about 4 o'clock in the morning, doing a 1,000-mile trip or whatever that he used to be involved in every year. And this happened to be about 20k from our place. He lost his memory and he was sent into hospital by a lady who was just near where the accident happened. And the only number he could remember or name was my number. He couldn't remember the phone number, but he remembered my name. So he was lucky to have survived that, because if you go to sleep on a motorbike, that's probably pretty final. Anyway, I said to Mike, when he came home, we picked him up from the hospital, and I said to him, Mike, did you thank the lady that picked you up and took you to hospital? Of course I did, he said. I said, what did you do for her? I rang her up and said, thanks, he said. I said, God, you mean bastard. I said, you could get her a voucher for a meal or something, couldn't you? Never said a word, Mike. But anyway, Faye and I were away, and we went into the Rose and Shamrock a couple of days later when we were coming back. Mike was looking after the place, and the duty manager said, oh, I had your mate in there the other day. Incidentally, he'll be missed in the Rose and Shamrock in their block. Saw your mate the other day. How the hell did he get here? I said, he hadn't got his bike going. Oh, he came in your car, he said. So that was typical of Mike. But anyway, he went in there. I thought I'd just ask him why he went in there. Oh, he got a couple of vouchers for somebody. Oh, that's good. So he did take notice. So that was quite good. You know, we all probably remember Mike as probably being a mean bastard. He was just frugal, man. He was frugal. But anyway, for whatever, he has been a loyal friend to me for 62 years. I repeat that again. And because of this, when he fell off his bike, we asked him how long he's going to consider carrying on this bloody bike, because he had real trouble throwing his leg over. His reply was, well, I find it a bit difficult to throw my leg over, but when I'm on her, she knows where she's going. Anyway, just to close off, I don't have any hesitation today, but somebody could prove me wrong, because Michael's proved us wrong the last few days. I don't have any hesitation in saying that Mike has been in my company and our family's company, mine in particular, on this planet for more time than anyone here today. And we are two different people. I'm not as different as Mike. So I'd say thank you, Mike, for the times we've shared and the memories that we have made. We love you and we will miss you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Peter. Awesome stuff. Just shows you the massive colour of this guy, you know, all the things. So I found this song. I'm going to let it roll along.
Woke up in the morning and the sun was shining through. I looked out my bedroom window and the sky, it was all blue. I headed down to the corner to the local country store. Well, I said, gasoline oil for my two-stroke machine. Two-stroke ain't for everybody, but for those that it is. I guess you know what I'm talking about when I say nothing compares to it. Dirt bikes and snowmobiles, two-stroke. nothing compares to it.
So appropriate, and a bit of metal edge there for it. So I'd like to please call up Henry Britton from the Tramway Museum. If he can come up, he's around here somewhere. Henry, thank you, mate. If there's anybody from Scott's Old Boys want to say a word or anything? I thought I'd do that.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Henry Britton from the Tramway Museum, and I've known Mike since late 1965 when he joined the museum. So we've got a lot of time together, a lot of experiences. Last Wednesday, or Wednesday of last week, which was the 4th of December, we'd finished our jobs for the day, and Mike said, let's put the jug on, have a cup of tea, or have a cup of coffee. He used to drink black coffee all the time. So we sat down about 4 o'clock, we sat down there and we had a bit of a gas bag, a few other members came in, and we just talked about things, what we were doing and different things that had happened over the years. It was just one of those laid back, making conversation about earlier days in our tramway life. The next time I saw Mike, he was in ICU, and that was, he was talking to me, or he was communicating to me, I was talking to him. We knew this was it. I would never see him again. We wouldn't have this dialogue between us. That's a bit of a hard thing to do, but that's the way it was. Mike and I had, although I'd known him for a long time, we had some common things too. My father grew up in Waipawa and his mother died when he was 9, and my father got packed off to Scots College. And he was the very first year of the boarders at Scots College. And we had that just contact there of the Scots College background. I knew quite a few of Mike's people, Milkman friends, so we could talk about them at times. I'm also secretary of the Karori Historical Society. Mike was involved in Brooklyn's history, we always took an interest in that. So we often sit down and just had a bit of a gas bag about what was going on in those different disciplines. And Mike had a great memory of events, and you could always name times and events, dates and things like that. Always sounded very convincing. I'm not too sure whether he was right or not, but he sounded convinced, and he was convinced himself that was right, and we just go on with that because it didn't really affect a great deal. So we worked on there, but when Mike joined the Tramway Museum in 1965, health and safety hadn't been invented in those days. And he was a great one for doing things, as we all know, his way. And sometimes they were quite dangerous things he used to do. He got away with it. He survived. He survived for many years after that. But that was Mike. He sometimes used to say to me, it's my Serbian blood that makes me what I am. He was well-spoken. He had a good vocabulary, as we all know about. But he was a very sincere person. He was always sort of what you might call interested in other people's welfare. He didn't always sort of demonstrate, you wouldn't think he was, but he was. Deep down, he was a people's person, just as sometimes he had trouble expressing that. But once you got to know Mike, that was the Mike that I knew, and that was the Mike that I had always got on with. Mike had a tram that he had always regarded as his tram, and that was the tram that we had put aside for restoration. It used to go at the Tramway Museum. Recently, we pulled that tram into our workshop, and we have just started to do a conservation plan on putting it back together. It's unfortunate now that Mike won't be here to see that through, because that was one of his projects, one of his interests in the Tramway Museum. But I'm sure when it is restored, that will be a dedication to him and his interest in that tram and some of the contributions he made, either financially putting money aside for that to happen. We'll miss him. He was a very conscientious person. When he was on duty, he was always there first. He was always first to open up, often last to leave. It's just unfortunate. I think back on things. He left slightly early on that day he died, or day he had the accident. I often wondered if he had just stuck to his normal routine of leaving about 4:45, he'd still be with us here today. That's life. We can't do anything about that. So Mike, we'll miss you, and you'll always be part of Wellington Tramway Museum history. Thanks.
Good stuff, Peter. Ooh. So I'm just wondering if I can get someone from the Victoria motorcycle community just come up, say a couple of words. I know it's a call out. Come on, someone stand up, grab a mic. Grab a mic for Mike. Come on. You know you want to. Just has to be something. Put down that lid for a second. Good man. We can have you after home, no problem. Absolutely. The more the merrier, alright? That's what it's about.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. My name's Ian Dawson, and like Mike, I'm a life member of the Victoria Motorcycle Club. Excuse me. And I've known Mike for, I suppose since, well, I knew Mike from 1979, I think. And I was actually lived in Christchurch, and I was going out with a young lady up here, and I became a member of the Victoria Motorcycle Club. And I can always remember, and it had a lot to do with organising events, and there were hill climbs at Mile Point, there were road races, there was lots of things that went on in those days, which were activities. And the one guy you could almost count on was Mike. Mike was always there, and you know, he would always, he just, if we all know, he just had this way about him that sometimes you didn't know whether to take him seriously or not, and other times he'd just come out with the most extraordinary things. And as I say, he was always there, and he was always a main part of the Victoria Motorcycle Club, which I know there are many members here who are here today. A few life members I see around the place as well. And as we say, you know, the general public have a certain view of motorcyclists, and Mike probably didn't do that, didn't help with that, I should say, over the years. But then when we were young, neither did we. So you know, it was great, and it was surprising. I was very taken back to hear what happened last week, and I was amazed that he was still riding. And he was still, that was his passion. On behalf of people that, in particular, we have a message here, apology from Darryl New, who is in hospital at the moment, and he couldn't be here today. He was a fellow Victoria Motorcycle Club member. The life of his, as we say, what I enjoyed a while ago, hearing all those other things that I had no idea about. As you had called it before, Mark, he had them, everybody in little boxes. And we had a box, and you had a box. And if it wasn't for this day, we probably would never have been in the same room together. So Mike, on behalf of the Victoria Motorcycle Club, keep doing those wheelies, keep being a nuisance, and long you may ride on.
I'm Steve Clegg. Mike was my milkman when we lived on the terrace, and I just remember that truck, which I found out previously it was a Bedford. I remember it didn't have a door on it, for obviously reasons that he was getting in and out. So little did I know, I was 14, so little did I know that we would sort of follow the same track. I think I just bought my first, I don't know if you could really call it a motorbike, it was a Vespa, and I was getting it ready to, Yeah, no, I was just going to say that Mike would have been happy about that at least it was a two-stroke, not one of those dirty fours. And so little did I know that I would rub shoulders with Mike for a good 20 years or so, because I took up motorcycle racing, and I won a New Zealand championship on a two-stroke. So that was an RSC 125. So I think Mike would have been happy about that one as well. So that's about it, as much as I can say. Keith McGoffin would send his apologies for not being able to. He lives in Sydney these days, so we had a bit of a chin wag a couple of days ago. And anyway.
Alright, awesome. So I'd like to open the mic up to anyone else who feels free, step forward please. Colin, awesome. It was teamwork that got us where we are today. People from the community, people from his family, lifetime friends, Steve and I. We made it all happen, but we made it all because we know that he was worthy of this. It's great that you all came here. We're going to hand over to you, Colin. Mint, bro.
G'day guys. Jumping Jehoshaphat, that was a word he used, or a couple of words he used quite often to describe silly people. I can't believe they could be so bloody stupid. This is a man who lived a life less ordinary, and this is shown by all of these amazing people here today. I met Mike when I was about 13 years of age. I had a paper run down on the terrace. A couple I worked for said, there's a bloke going to come and look after the place for a couple of weeks while we go on holiday, and this bloke rocks up in a red Bedford truck, and he says, get on the back boys, we'll go and collect the papers down at the Evening Post. And we thought that was the shit. Jump on the back of the truck and hang on for dear life, and that's how we did it. No such thing as health and safety then, for sure. Mike, I asked around, and my older brother Ian, who's here today, said, yeah, Mike, Jesus, yeah, Mike Vash, legend. As I grew up, my late twin brother, learned to ride like a madman thanks to Mike. Gus, Gordon, you're both here today as well. They have fond memories, and all of the Brooklyn boys, Goat, Hannah, Goat, Goat, Boone, a whole bunch of the various guys, Swamp, everybody grew up, loved and respected Mike, and all had stories and all rode hard thanks to Mike. I was living in London, and I came home briefly for a holiday in the summer of 1987, and it's about 10 o'clock at night. I've been out catching up with quite a few friends. I'm walking up Helen Street towards where I lived and where my mum and dad lived in Apuka Street, and it's about 10 o'clock at night, and a bike comes up the hill, parks in the garage, and the bloke walks down, and he's wearing a helmet, and as he walks past he goes, "Wheelies, Mike Vash." He had no idea who I was. I had no idea who he was until I heard, "Wheelies!" Well, we stopped and we had a good chat, and we had a damn good chinwag. Now, and over the years I would bump into Mike quite often around the city, and in fact even I would pop up home, and there he was one day chatting away to my mum. "What brings you up?" "Your mum keeps beating me in the Sunday Times crossword, and I've got to find out what her secret is," he said. So, a life less ordinary. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the memories. You're a great man. All right, guys. Thank you.
So still like, yes, thanks. Right, you can introduce yourself.
I'm Linda, and I'm Mike's first cousin. He only had 3 first cousins on his mother's side, my sister, my brother and myself. I'd just like to share a few memories I have of our earlier life. My earliest memory of Michael was when we were about 5 or 6, and Michael was living in Plymouton with his mother and uncle and grandmother. And some children we were walking up the hill at Plymouton on the way home from school, and some children called out, "Ha ha, your cousin got the cuts today." Well, if those people who are probably over 70 might realise the cuts of getting the strap. So you can imagine giving a 6-year-old the strap today. He was also a bit of a joker, especially against a great aunt Florrie, who was not married. One time we were staying over in Paiatua with Auntie Connie, and Michael put an alarm clock under Florrie's bed. It went off in the middle of the night, and as you can imagine, nobody was amused. In the late 60s, my brother worked in a sharebroker's firm in Wellington, and Michael was a client. As you know, he wasn't the tidiest of dressers and would turn up in his rugby shorts and gumboots. Tony was asked by one of the partners to talk to Michael about his standard of dress. About this time, I was being discharged from a hospital in Cairo, Northland, and Michael turned up in an ancient red truck, sounds as though it might have been the milk truck, to drive me back to Wanganui. I was quite overwhelmed to think he'd driven all the way from Wellington to pick me up, but it turned out he'd been visiting a girlfriend in the Waikato. Not quite so far, but a nice thought anyway. About 1980, Michael gave my mother $100,000 towards buying a new car. And I recently asked him why he never bought his mother a Christmas present, but did that for my mother. And his reply was that his mother didn't need anything, but mine did. There've not been many Christmases we've not celebrated together. As children, we usually went... As children, we usually went to his mother's on the farm, and then after she died, we went to my mother's. We went to my mother's, and then he ended up coming to mine. I would always ask him to bring a decent bottle of wine, but he always turned up with a bottle of Henkeltrocken, which was usually about $8 in the supermarket. After my brother passed away in 2010, I declared I was not cooking Christmas dinner again. And since then, Michael and I have met for lunch every December. Needless to say, his dress attire has not changed much over the years. It's now rugby shorts and bike boots instead of gum boots. We always remembered each other's birthdays, and he would occasionally drop in for a drink and a chat. I'm going to miss you, cuz.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm Mike's second cousin. So I only really remember Mike as somebody who'd turn up close to the middle of the night, heading home from Manfield. He'd normally be pissed, he'd flipped his bike, looking for a bed, and the spare bed was my bedroom, and then he'd be gone early hours in the morning, so never really saw much of him. He'd just sort of pass through. I was asking your mum on Sunday, you know, just trying to get a bit of a handle on who his connections were and family and everything else. And she says, you know, Mike's got all that, he's got it all up there. And so I said, you know, falling off his bike. So she says, oh, well, I'll stop worrying about Mike. So, yeah, cheers, mate.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure whether I'm going to do much good. My name's Alan Roy. I'm up from Christchurch, and I'm part of the equivalent Tramway Museum down there. Sorry, I'm struggling a bit because I haven't got a bit of paper and haven't really thought about that. But every Tramway Museum seems to have some characters. Mike's certainly up in the Wellington Tramway Museum. But he must have been a nice guy. Look around the room and just see how many people are here. We had an equivalent character down in Christchurch, and he and Mike were really good friends, and we, in the same way that you guys are going to miss it, we miss Stuart. And Stuart's son sitting over there in the thing had to come and be part of it, same as I did. All I want to say is, look, our folk are equally sympathetic, and I don't know who in the Vash family is here, but you've all got our best wishes, and sorry, I think I better stop before I make a complete hash of this, but thanks for letting me stand up and speak.
Perfectly fine. Anybody else from the crowd like to get up and say a couple of words? Awesome. Just keep it.
Yeah, g'day, I'm Tom. I'm son of Virginia and Mike, and the grandson of Nari Adams, who was Mike's next door neighbour for 31 years. And yeah, we've got fantastic memories of Mike popping by for a roast. And when my grandma, who's been dead for about 5 years now, when she was on her decline from cancer, it was all systems go. Everyone was all hands on deck to look after her, and Mike was one of those hands. And so we always knew that we could rely on Mike to help us when we needed to be helped with Nari. He travelled with her in the ambulance to the hospital on a number of occasions, and he was a character. He was a fantastic person to have sitting, chatting with us after dinner, usually falling asleep, because my grandma's lounge was boiling hot. And yeah, Swandro probably didn't help actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, people like Mike aren't made every day. And it's fantastic to see so many people here from so many different areas of his life. So cheers, Mike.
Yeah, my name's Noel Bevan. I was a milkman on the run next to Mike. Alright? And he kept me alive. One night, we drove into Herbert Garden Flats, if you know. Parked too close to wall and had a flat battery. How did he get out of it? Stopped the taxi, sent him round to me to calm out, and we crash started it down the street. He also, you're going to get a chuckle out of this one, got a ticket for bald tyres. So what did Mike do? Come home, had another set of tyres in the garage, brand new, because he didn't want to wear them out. Put them on, and within 3/4 of an hour he's down the city council then traffic department and got the guy the sack. Also, apart from, he had an old crane, mobile crane, and he parked it down by my brother and my place down Heavy Valley and Mark's father, sorry. After 12 months he decided to start it up. Well, after a quarter of an hour or so he got it going and smoke everywhere. So he started to play around with the crane, didn't he? But he didn't put his legs out. And as you know, with a mobile crane you've got to put your legs out. Well, all I saw is what he's on the toilet with a hell of a grin on his face here, as he started to topple, but he swung it and trying to save it. And that was Mike.
Awesome, Noel. Hell's teeth. Where would we be without our old milkmen, eh? Seriously, you modern people just don't know.
Thank you. I'm going to have a wee bit more on milk vendors as well. My name's Gary Murdoch and I was secretary of the Wellington Union at the time when Mike was quite heavily involved. Everybody knows that Mike's generosity and many milk vendors have benefited from that, and at one stage when my truck wasn't working for 2 weeks, he loaned me his and he did his run overnight, and I did mine during the day, and he wouldn't accept any money for it. You know, he was happy if you just took him up for a cup of coffee or a beer. But this is sort of a story about how the wheel sort of turns a wee bit. He, as Noel alluded to, wasn't always the best of milk vendors. In fact, his customer service was pretty ordinary, really. Stories are legendary about he wouldn't deliver to whole streets if the cars weren't parked in quite precisely the way that he wanted. And he, at one stage, all boxes were supposed to be on the street, close to the road, and this one particular one was down a path. And Mike had agitated for some time to get this box removed and moved, and nobody had actually done anything about it. So one night he put a chain on his truck, connected it to the milk box and hauled it up onto the road and left it there. Well, naturally, so this didn't go down well with milk authorities, and a guy called Mike Hazy was he was the boss of the manager of the milk board in Wellington at the time, and so the union actually spent some time defending Mike and his various for his various misdemeanours.